Hey, you dorks, this is Gunnar Hansen, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you are listening to The Dorkening.
Hi, I'm Brian Johnson, and although you probably accidentally stumbled across it and have no idea why you're watching it, you are in fact watching The Dorkening.
Hello, this is Tom Kenny, voice actor, the voice of the Ice King on Adventure Time, and SpongeBob SquarePants. Ah, meow. Oh, Gary the Snail, too. Hey, guess what you're filling your eye holes and ear holes with? The Dorkening! Oh, I love the Dorkening. Very popular in Ooh and Bikini Bottom.
Hi, I'm Lou Ferrigno. You're watching The Dorkening. And you know what? You don't like me when I get angry, so don't get me angry. You better keep watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, this is Felissa Rose, and you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, it's Courtney Palm. We're shooting Death House, and you're watching The Dorkening.
This is Anthony Michael Hall, and you're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned. My friend's going to show you what entertainment's all about, baby.
The Dorkening.
And we are, well, not live, but we're here. And it is episode 24 of the Loudest Sports Show, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome.
The Manny Ramirez edition.
Yes, we are brought to you by the Dorkening Hour and sponsored by Deadly Grounds Coffee. I am your host, Patsy the Angry Nerd, and joining me slightly off camera is Slashes the Ice Queen.
Hello,
and
here.
For those of you watching on the telecast here, the YouTubes, you can see that we have with us today from It's Go Time with Jay and James. It's the guy who's not Jay.
That would be me. I'm the not Jay.
How you doing today, buddy? It's your first time on the show.
I know. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I know you were on our show this past week, so return the favor. And we've talked about kind of doing more, as we are technically the two sports shows on the network. More cross promotion to help us. Because you are the loudest, we are the more quieted, subdued group. As
we're the ghost.
Yep. So I'm just happy. I'm glad we can talk about some stuff that Jay doesn't like baseball and hockey. So nothing against Jay on that part, but I'm trying to get him to watch hockey. I only can watch so much basketball without me pulling out my hair. So,
and you're in the same boat as me.
Exactly. I don't got much left. So
I start pulling out nose hair. So we're going to be discussing all of that good stuff, from hockey to baseball to football, even though there's not much left, to what's the other one? Basketball. I knew there was a fourth one. But first, we're going to start with our usual opening face-off question. So our opening face-off question today is, and I'll start with you, James. Which athlete has the best nickname?
I have to say it's Randy Johnson.
Yeah, that's because after baseball, he got into porn and he was able to keep the same name. The Big Unit. That's what happens.
In a close second would be Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt.
Well, first one, then the other. Slashes, who has your and I knew going into this, I knew who you're going to pick. Hold on, let me grab the Funko.
This is riveting radio.
It is riveting.
I know, right?
So you can hold this up in front of the camera when you're ready, because I know that's who you're going to pick.
It's Mookie.
Oh, poor Mookie.
Betts.
I love Mookie so much, and I'm really sad that he's not a Red Sox. A Red Sox.
Not a member of the Red Sox anymore.
He's not a Red Sox anymore. And that makes me sad, because we like him. We like him a lot. We like him so much that we adopted him without him even knowing it.
Yeah, a lot of folks don't realize, including Mookie, that we are his adoptive parents.
Yeah, I know he has real parents that love him, but we adopted him. And for the few years that he was with the Red Sox, we would go to games and we would cheer him on, and we'd be like, "That's our son! Go Mookie! You're doing so good!" radio, and Patrick would be like, "Oh, I taught him how to do that."
It's a little different from how I taught him, but still pretty good. Still
I'd be
pretty
like,
good.
I always feel.
Love you so much. And it's funny because our friends were in on the joke too. And so they would be like, "Oh, hey, your son played really well last night." I'd be like, "Yeah, we're so proud of him." And then he allowed himself to be traded.
Well, he didn't allow it. Like
He was traded. He was traded.
So what was interesting? I always felt like saying Mookie by itself was always like a bad word. Like I was going to get in trouble for it, being like, if I say it around the wrong company and they didn't know I was talking about baseball, they're gonna be like, "What'd you say?"
Horatio J. Mookington,
the third.
So Mookie is a nickname that he entered Major League Baseball with.
Marcus Lynn.
So I mean, so I think like it kind of counts as a nickname.
Of course,
you know,
counts.
but my
100%.
favorite earned nickname, like athlete who earned a nickname while playing, is Mario Lemieux's. God, I can't even talk right now. Mario Lemieux's Super Mario.
Oh, I mean, that one's lazy. I think that's a lazy nickname.
You know, think about a lot of these nicknames. They're like Wayne Gretzky's the great one.
Oh, you just took mine. I was gonna because it's so succinct and it's so perfect.
But it's so boring. It's so lame.
But like, it's boring. But it's like you sum him up in just those three words: the great one.
At least the what are the acronym? Acronym. That's a word. At least the acronym doesn't spell out an animal.
That's true.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say another good one too is for the hockey is Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe. Like that is synonymous. Like, and I think that's what the great thing about some of these names, some of the greatest players do have a lot of these great nicknames. It just boils down to that's who they were. You know, the Great Bambino,
October, and Mr. October. You know, obviously
Mr. November,
Reggie Jackson first,
yes,
and then Senor Octubre, David Ortiz, because you know he's like the most clutch, baseball player of all time, maybe the most clutch athlete. So, and don't come at me with your, well, what about Tom Brady? Yeah, Tom Brady relied on kickers 3 times, and one time it was a blowout. So don't give me that. Oh, Brady, Brady's great. He's got his 7
twice.
What about it was the Panthers too, right?
Yeah, so it's the Panthers. The first Rams game were field goals, and the first Phillies game in Jacksonville where they won back to back. They were up 10 points when they went before. Okay. They were up by 10, and then Phillies.
I'm trying to remember what he did, but he's never led a game-winning touchdown, like thrown a game-winning touchdown pass in the Super Bowl.
Nope, because it was a pitch in the Super Bowl 51.
Yeah, it was a handoff. It was a running play, and it was field goals. And
well, technically no. Yeah, well, yes and no, because the Seattle game was a go-ahead touchdown pass to. But it was technically, if we're calling a spade, that was the last point scored, and it was the game winner.
Yeah, I'll give it that.
But it wasn't the play that won the game. Put it that way.
Right. It wasn't the game-winning play because Seattle went right down the field and had Carroll taken his head out of his ass. Yeah.
It's called Halo. You know, we figured it would be out there, and we were in practice, and it's Halo. We're gonna throw it, and we're gonna see what happens. You know, the play just wasn't there, and there's no one there to fault herself. But hey, that's why you play the game. You gotta keep going.
We didn't want Marshawn to get MVP of the Super Bowl, so we decided to throw it instead because we're fucking stupid. But
and they haven't been heard from since.
Nope. Well, unless you count the Chad Wheeler thing, which I totally do, and we can get into that a little later. But
big marketees.
There are some great sport nicknames like the Fridge. And
who the hell is the Fridge?
William the Refrigerator Perry. He played for the 85 Bears. He scored.
Was he a defenseman? Is that why?
A defensive player?
Yes.
He was
defensive.
He was like massive. He wore number 72. He was huge. They actually put him in a goal line situation and let him score a touchdown. But Walter Payton didn't score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. But the Fridge did. Mongo McMichael. Another Bears player, Steve McMichael. They called him Mongo after the character from Blazing Saddles. They let's see who else. Snacks Harrison, another big, huge defensive
Is it because
lineman.
he likes to eat?
Yeah, Snacks. I mean, that's there was a guy, Don Majikowski. They called him the Magic Man. He wasn't very good, but he had
not really magical.
Jerome Bettis,
the mailman. You had Carl Malone, the mailman.
The mailman, and I remember Scottie Pippen used that nickname to taunt him in the I think it was it was either the 95 or the 96 or 97 or 98 championship. I think it was in 97, the first time they played the Bulls. And Malone was getting ready to shoot a couple of free throws, and Scottie Pippen comes over to him and goes, "Mailman don't deliver on Sundays." And Malone missed both free throws because Scottie Pippen got into his head.
Oh, Scottie Pippen.
It's like, wow, that's terrible. Well, you got the Greek Freak, which I think is, I'm not a huge fan of that. Giannis Antetokounmpo. You had Javon Curse was known as just the Freak because he was like one of the first defensive linemen when he played for the Titans. He was just so goddamn fast. Like he was faster than some of the running backs. And he was just a monster. Nobody could block.
Javon Curse, you said, right?
Yeah. Because he was just so fast. He was just so fast. Prime time
because even in the recent history, I feel like the nickname is more of a branding tool nowadays than it was.
Absolutely.
Hashtag beast mode.
Yeah, it's
hashtag let Russ cook.
Well, it's because even if you look at like the great one, Wayne Gretzky didn't get that moniker till after the bulk of his career was done.
Right.
Like, he earned that moniker. He just didn't make it up and was given that. So I always think it's interesting how that nickname has changed in sports over time. Because I'm trying to think, like, you have Mookie, you have like Petey, like that's a nickname from Troy. Like, and it's like, yeah, it's just like, what would you, JD Martinez, what's his nickname?
Yeah, nothing. JD.
Yeah, like Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I don't
like Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, you'll see it more in the sports where the guys are, especially basketball. Well, I was gonna say basketball more because these guys, and we talked about this last week when we discussed the All-Star game. So many guys are just out there for their brand and like, like TB12.
Well, I mean, it's to the point where some of these guys give themselves nicknames, which I think is stupid because I think a nickname it's earned. It's bestowed upon you. It has something to do with, your playing style, either on the field during a game or in practice,
like
or
Bryant,
maybe
Reeves.
it's an inside joke between you and your teammates, and that story is told and catches on, and people say something. Yeah, but I mean,
that's a hockey nickname, like every Marshy and Bergie and Pasta and Kretsch.
Yeah, but those aren't like nickname. Like we don't
Shorzy.
We don't refer to Patrice Bergeron as like the Great White Hope.
No
one, like the Great White North.
No one,
because he's from Canada. Do you get it?
No,
just me.
Yeah, just you.
Okay. Or like the call him like it's the Canadian goose.
No, you're trying way too hard.
Well, but I'm saying like that kind of makes it stupid. Like it's stupid, like because they haven't really. I don't know. Like I mean,
but I feel like it's only like what Patsy said. It's only in basketball. Hockey, I always feel like the nickname at hockey either comes in like a random press conference, like after a game, being like, "Hey, Post," like, and it kind of gets out there like generic
name.
Yeah, their nicknames usually have something to do with their last name, or it's something that's given to them after the fact.
Sid
like
the
Gretzky.
Kid. Like Sid did so much. By the time he was like 23, he had already had like a gold medal and fucking Stanley Cup. By the time he was 23, he had been like Conn Smythe. So like, oh, it's Sid the Kid, which makes sense. But when it's it's usually like what you're talking about hockey, like, oh, it's Bergie, it's Pasta, it's Marshy, like those are their nicknames because it's just that's their name. That's what they were, as they grew up. Like, Campbell. Why can't I think of his first name?
Gregory.
I was going to call him Glenn. And that's totally not the right guy. Greg Campbell, they called him Soup.
Soups.
Yeah, Soup or Soupy because Campbell. Like, usually it's whatever your last name or your first name. Like Ovechkin is Ovi, and everyone knows who you're talking about. And it's not like a ridiculous name like, I'm King James.
But the thing with hockey, though, is sometimes you're known more for the line that you're on. Like
now it's a little.
Well, I was gonna say King James. I think was from like Sports Illustrated, though.
Yeah, which is dumb. But if you have any humility whatsoever, you're like, I'm not gonna start calling myself that when I'm 18 and 19 and use that name all the time. It's like, I'm King James. It's like, yeah.
No, you're not. You haven't
accomplished something first.
Go play the Celtics, get beaten the rounds against the Celtics.
Yeah, and that was what 07, 08. Yeah,
07, 08, 09.
What you're saying is about the hockey lines. Like I remember, there was the Broad Street Bullies, which was just the Phillies. I mean the Flyers, Philly Flyers,
Big Bad Bruins,
the Big Bad Bruins. Well, then you had I believe it was Ron Francis. No, it was John LeClaire, Eric Lindros, and Rod Brindamore. They were known as the Legion of Doom in Philadelphia for a long time. And then
recently you had the HBK line in Pittsburgh.
Yep. And now you have
the Perfection line.
Like, that's what they call them in Boston. No, Doc Emmerich, that's not what they call them in Boston. That's what they call them fucking everywhere else. No one in Boston calls them the Perfection line. If we do,
it's
we're
mockingly
saying it with disdain and hatred because Doc Emmerich sounded always like he was narrating a 1940s World War II newsreel that came before you talking picture show.
Well, it was interesting because I was, like I said, and I listened to Telegram as well, and they always call it the erection line, being like,
yes,
all they do is score, so they always call it the erection line to make fun of that moniker.
And who and what kind of sticks do they use? Sherwood.
But like and I'll end the last one, Big Z.
Yeah, Zdeno. Like, hey, you're big and your first name starts with Z. What if we called you Mittens?
Mike.
I'm working on a nickname though. Nitro. That's an interesting nickname. What's your real name? Nitro. Working on a nickname though. Mike. All two other people who have seen Down Periscope know what I'm talking about.
Oh no, I know. I've seen Down Periscope.
I knew you knew because of the way you said it. It's exactly how he said it in the movie. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to stop, take a break. If there's any that we forgot or missed or just overlooked, let us know. Shoot us a message on Facebook or when we post this episode tomorrow, or the loudest sports show at gmail.com. Let us know. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll promote some coffee, and when we get back, we'll talk some sports.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
All right, so we have some hockey stuff to talk about now that we're back.
We have a lot of hockey stuff to talk about. So the NHL, hockey season is in full swing. We have seen some amazing games. Some games are being postponed due to COVID, which we, had anticipated, but we are watching some really great hockey right now.
Yeah. The Bruins just keep winning. I looked up a stat earlier today that I put in. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out. but they have 20 points in 12 games. Only Toronto has more. They have 23 points in 14 games. Tampa has 19, but they've played 11 games. So Tampa, Toronto, and Boston are all right they're the cream of the crop for their division. Although the final division there, I think that's the whatever's the last one, the West. They have a lot of teams that are bunched up, 14, 15, 16 points, because those teams tend to they're the heavier hitters out there, like the Western Conference teams that you'd see a lot. But both Boston and Tampa are 8-1-1 in their last 10, not last ton, their last 10 games. Boston's won 4 straight, but a lot of those, have come from, I think they've won 4 out of their last 5 or 5 out of their last 6, and they keep coming back from 2 and 3 goal deficits. Tampa is 6-0 in their last, or they've won 6 straight is what I should say.
Yeah, it's actually been unbelievably impressive to see how the Bruins have come back, and Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Bruins. You got to remember they're normally in the Atlantic Division, so those 3 teams are battling out. And I think those 3 teams last year locked up those 3 spots pretty early on. For the last couple of years, they've been 1, 2, 3 in the Atlantic. I'm not surprised by Tampa. And I'm not surprised by Toronto, because Toronto's not playing Tampa. They're not playing Boston. They're not playing, they're playing, all the Canadian teams. But, I just feel like it's a little bit more of a better, section of work for them. And, I'm just excited because it's going to make the playoffs so much more watchable.
And Mitch Marner has been playing out of his goddamn mind. Like, he had goals, I think it was like 8 straight. I don't know if he scored again in his most recent one, but he had goals in 8 straight games. Like, if you have an 8-game point streak, that's pretty impressive. But he had an 8-game goal streak. And they're playing over there with, arguably one of the better teams in the league in Montreal, which I hate to say, but Montreal's been playing out of their minds too. And Tyler Toffoli's been fucking lighting it up left and right.
Yeah. And I can't believe this. Like, the Maple Leafs look really good.
Like, they look as advertised. This is what the team should have been for the last couple of years.
Exactly.
Matthews.
You have 3 like excellent forwards. You have Marner, who's playing like way above his pay grade recently. You have Austin Matthews, who's doing what he's supposed to do. And then you've got John Tavares, who, I don't know how well he's doing right now, but he's got to be doing well with those 2 guys. You're like, that's a solid, potent offensive, lineup that you've got, all these different guys that can, score you 30, 40 goals.
But this is exactly what I was looking forward to when they announced these, new restructured divisions for this season, is seeing teams that wouldn't necessarily meet up, or obviously wouldn't necessarily meet up as often, having these matchups and seeing some of these teams just do so incredibly well, where they wouldn't necessarily be a contender so much in with the regular divisions. So I think it's a really creating some very exciting hockey.
Yeah. And another one of the surprising teams is Florida. So you've got Tampa with 19 points, Florida right behind them with 18, Chicago with 16. Chicago's playing well. Like, I didn't expect that, especially with Kirby Dach.
Well, Chicago played good towards the end of last season. Remember, they played their way into the tournament.
Right, but they lost both Kirby Dach and Jonathan Taves for this season.
But again, it's one of those things is how good, but they have a very deep and a very well farm system to mine from.
Yeah,
because
it'd be like if the Bruins suddenly lost, like, if they didn't have, say, DeBrusque and Bergeron, like, would you be expecting them to be in contention? Like, middle of the pack, but not second in their division.
Well, that's what happened last year when they lost Bergeron and Pasta for a combined total, and you had like Marchand on a line with 2 other people who had that first line, and they won like 8 out of the 10 games that they played. Yeah, so it just depends how good your system is and where you can, yeah, you lose people on those top 2 lines or top 3 lines that you can mix and match, and that's all coaching and that's all about that chemistry. So Chicago being where they are, I'm not surprised by that. The one thing I'm very surprised about looking at the standings, to be honest, is it's between Nashville and Dallas. Dallas, don't forget, went to the Stanley Cup Finals last year. And they're struggling to get to. I mean, yeah, they're only 2 points out of a playoff spot, but still, like they haven't been playing their best hockey yet.
Well, they're also they're want top 2 offensive player in Tyler Seguin. It's because it's between him and Jamie Benn, and their starting goalie, like Ben Bishop, is out for the first 5 months of the season. Like you got to ride Anton Hudobin, who did play very well in the playoffs last year. Don't get me wrong; he took over and really, stole that job away from Ben Bishop. But Bishop is a guy who is, or was a perennial Vezina consideration. If he didn't get the top 3, he was still up there. I believe he won it once for Tampa. But when you're riding a backup and a backup, we saw how well that worked with Halak last year. When you're riding your backup and then another backup that's, who should be a third string goalie or starting at your AHL affiliate, it's kind of tough. So
St. Louis won a Stanley Cup with that. So that's.
Yeah, but he proved that he could, Bennington took over and played well for months, and he's relatively young. We know what Anton Hudobin is. Like, he got his chance to start for several seasons in Carolina, and he was not as good as he was playing as a backup for Boston. I mean, it's just one of those things, like we always talk about in hockey, like the biggest, most important thing, like it doesn't matter what your offense is like, but if your goalie gets hot right at the right time.
Oh yeah. It's why the playoffs is the great equalizer, because you're going to an 8 team win the Stanley Cup. It's very hard for an 8 seed to win any other sport. So, looking at the West Division, just looking at the standings real quick. Vegas with 17, St. Louis 16, Colorado 15, Arizona and Anaheim with 13, Minnesota with 12, and San Jose with 11 points. Like, only one team in that division has a losing record. Like, that's insane. You got 3 in the Canadian division. No, I'm sorry. The Canucks. Jesus. Canucks they've lost 10 games. They're 6-10. In the East, there's not a single team below 500.
Yeah, Central, you've got Dallas, who's lost 3 in overtime, so that's kind of what's keeping them afloat. But you got Nashville at 5-8, Detroit 3-9. Yeah, New Jersey's at 4-3, Buffalo's at 4-4. The Rangers are at 4-5, so they are technically below 500, but I've got 3 overtime losses.
Well, it's also because they've played 2 more games than the Devils and Buffalo, because Buffalo and Devils can't get their COVID situation under control.
Yeah, like it's weird looking up and down. Like, Detroit's played 14 games, but Carolina and Dallas have played 10. The Devils have played 9, and, LA's played 12. St. Louis has played 13. Vegas leads. And see, this might be the most impressive thing. Vegas has 17 points in 10 games. Boston has 20 in 12. Like, so there, Vegas is right up there with the rest of these guys. So I think it's going to
Vegas and Vegas is all in. They've been all in for the last 3 years. They keep trading for prime players and sacrificing some of their farm system and their picks just to win now. I mean, it's like I said. I mean, we could talk about the postseason projection, but I'm telling you, when it gets down to those conference semifinals and the conference finals, it's going to be insane because. It's going to be, like I said, the playoffs are going to be divisional until the conference finals. And they're just going to beat the shit out of each other.
Thinking about the playoffs gives me an erection line. Like, absolutely. Like, I'm so excited.
I mean, you're going to have a Canadian team in a conference final game for the first time since
2011.
Yeah.
And if I'm the NHL, and this is what I think they need to keep these divisions. I think they need to like either manipulate them a little bit, but like, keep these as your divisions when you open up the league again, and literally have the Canadian teams as their own division to make sure that you can have some Canadian representation in the playoffs.
Oh, I completely agree with you.
It's tougher if you're doing an 82 game season. I mean, you can always work the schedule out because if you have your West Coast swings, like the Celtics every year do the rodeo road trip where they go to Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. I don't remember if that's the correct order, but like they play all three of those teams within like a weekend because there's like a rodeo going on.
I mean, my opinion is that it's going to be a while before things really get back to normal. And I'm using that in quotes because what is normal
we can
anyways.
see the quotes on YouTube.
But, the air bunnies. Well,
you give me the air bunnies, I kill you.
But it's going to be a while before. So I wouldn't be surprised if next season is a reflection of this season, parallels this season. I wouldn't be surprised if we either see the same thing to kind of, again, limit travel. Maybe we get an extended season. We
maybe
play
65
a full
games, or maybe a full
we play
82.
a full season.
Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if they were to do this again to kind of cut down on travel just to be safe.
I mean, I'd be surprised if they don't have fans. I should have looked into this. But I think they should have fans, in Canada. I know some places are allowed to have fans. Like I think in Texas, you can have 10%.
Well, I know in New York, Governor Cuomo just said you can have 10% of the arenas.
Texas, yep.
And depending testing and stuff like that. So that means you have the Islanders, Rangers, and Sabres technically can have fans in their stands again soon. But the board of governors, which I still think is the coolest name for the owners of freaking any sport, the board of governors.
Council of Elders.
Yes, good. Yes, you want to join the National Hockey League, you have to become a governor.
Simply quote the Bible verse.
But the reason they didn't want to do a full 82 game season is because they want the season to start in October again. They don't want they want the clock to reset itself and have a normal season. So
according to Biden, by July, everybody in America should be vaccinated. So we'll see.
Yeah. But still, like I think that we might see something similar next season.
I think the owners are going to push to be. We want butts in those seats. Because they've, and I think that's that's why there's so much advertising this year, as the advertising of the divisions, the logos on the helmets, all that stuff.
And here's the thing, like, if you can't, like in Boston, I can't speak for other stadiums, but I can say that in Boston, even if you were to do 50% capacity, that's not enough distance because the seats are like, you're sitting in someone's lap.
They're
like
very tiny.
I barely fit into a seat. Like
I've gone to the new seats.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Like I'm not like the smallest guy in the world, but I'm also not the biggest. I fit in most seats. Like I can sit on a subway seat with no problem. But seats in Boston, the Red Sox and the Bruins tend to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller. To the point where like they might as well just put in a long bench and just cram a bunch of people in. But you couldn't.
That would be comfier.
Yeah, you couldn't say like, okay, it's 50% capacity and we'll sell every other seat or whatever, because even that's still too close. Like even if you're a seat away from someone, you're 3 feet, if that, 18 inches away from somebody. You'd have to do a quarter capacity.
Who knows? If they're that desperate for fans and money, like I said, I think they need to bring up the idea of having outdoor games at Fenway.
We talked about this on a show a few weeks back, and somebody, I think it was Ty Anderson, who writes for the Sports Hub, said it's so difficult. Like if it's 20 degrees and sunny, that's fine, but like which way is the sun leaning? Like which part of the ice is the sun shining down on? It's reflecting off the plastic, the plexiglass barrier, which is going to magnify the sun's rays, which is going to, like, you have to have very specific situation. What if it's 34 degrees and raining? Can't have the game. What if it's 37 degrees, and now everything's slush. Like,
but that's also, the reason why they're having, I think it's in a few weeks, the outdoor game.
It's an outdoor game.
Well, there's 2 of them.
Right, but you have to have...
it's a weekend. But that's the whole reason why they're doing that. It's not like in lieu of, the Winter Classic that we're so used to seeing at this point. It's, they're trying to get fans there. They're trying...
Well, there's going to be no fans there. It's a rink in the middle of a golf course.
Oh,
no,
okay.
it's on the 18th green of some Lake Tahoe country club, which overlooks like the Sierra Nevadas, and it's literally just a rink on in the fairway.
Okay.
There'll be no fans.
Fenway's being used as a vaccination center.
Right. See, I heard the opposite. I heard that they were going to try to kind of create this like stadium set up.
Maybe in a couple of places, just maybe not like the Lake Tahoe one. Like, because I know other places are talking about doing it as well.
Yeah, the outdoor game, because they wanted to do like a Mystery Alaska type game. So from the movie Mystery Alaska, they wanted to do it like a frozen pond game. But
pond hockey, yeah.
Yeah, and their thing was like, and so for them, actually, but Ash is right though. This is a test for the NHL, because if they can pull this off, they might do games in like more remote locations just for the visualness of being like, we're gonna do it on a big ass lake in Saskatchewan, where you see all those people like skating on that like ice with like a sunset, like those epic shots and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't see them doing this more often.
I mean,
but also with the weather, don't forget they had an outdoor game at Dodger Stadium against the Ducks and the Kings, and it was like 60 degrees out, and the ice sheet was fine.
I don't remember that one, but
I mean, if they're looking for a body of water, we got a pond right outside of our apartment.
Yeah, there's one.
I'm all for that.
Hey, Bruins, come play in my backyard.
Bergie,
we'll go rent a little popcorn maker from Rent-A-Center and just make some up in the backyard.
Right, I'll just make some hot chocolate out of the kitchen, pass it around.
So
there you
go. We do have a couple more points to get to before we move on. Mikko Koivu retires after 16 years.
Yeah, former captain of the Minnesota Wild.
Yep.
There we go. I mean, that's awesome where you have someone who's been around that long, and it sucks that he had to finally hang it up. And I can tell my dad's 63 and he just hung up his skates. So it must be, I don't envy any of those people who are like, it's time to go. Because I know those guys just want to play till they're 50.
Yeah.
Or
look
more.
at Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Look at Zdeno Chara.
I was going to say, look at Chara. They're both 43. The Penguins finally got their GM. They named Ron Hextall, who was a former Flyers goalie, also was a Flyers GM for a while, I believe.
Because they need a general manager. They just won two cups in a row a couple of years ago.
Well, I mean, their general manager just suddenly was like, "Yeah, I'm out," and just like done. And everyone was like, "What?" Like, it took everyone by surprise. Nobody had any clue. He's like, "Nope, I've got family issues. I gotta leave." And so they went like a week and a half without a GM. Also, because this is not just the NHL section, but this is the hockey section as well. The Lamoureux twins have retired from U.S. Olympic hockey. Monique and Jocelyn were identical twins. I mean, they're still identical twins. They announced their retirement after
they
two
were,
silvers.
but they're not anymore.
Yes, one of them
retired from being a twin.
One of them wears a fancy hat with a feather in it now, so you can tell them apart. No, they announced their retirement after 2 silver and 1 gold medal in the Olympics. 2018, Monique scored the goal that forced overtime in Pyeongchang against Canada, I believe.
Yes.
And Jocelyn won it in a shootout. I remember watching that, and that was 2018, and it was glorious. It was so amazing.
Yeah, the U.S. women's hockey team has just been fire the past few years.
Yeah.
And especially in the Olympics. Like, I mean, it's some real exciting hockey to watch.
Yeah.
Better than the men's.
Yeah. It's so good. It's good. I love watching, just any hockey, but Olympic hockey.
Well, with this news, I'm very interested because I was unaware of this. So you put these in the show notes. I kind of did a little research. A lot of players from the last couple, the 2018 or the 2022 women's U.S. hockey team is going to look a lot different than the one in 2018 because a lot of the members retired because they were on it for 12 years. A lot of these players have been playing all the way back when they lost to the Canadian. They lost because they've been in the gold medal round all 3 games. They were silver, gold. So they've lost it to Canada, and they beat Canada. So a lot of them were like, this was our Everest. This was our moment to get past. And now they're just kind of, we're all set. We're going to go to coaching or whatever. So I'm very curious. I'm very excited because you're going to have that youth movement in the sport, which is always good to see. So.
Well, it's kind of surprising that they would retire now less than a year before the 2022 Olympics, which I think is kind of weird. But maybe it's something that they knew about and they had talked about for a while, and they just finally just made it formal.
Or maybe they just looked around and was like, or the training was starting to get, ramp up, and they're starting to get ready and do more.
Or they weren't allowed to train, or they weren't able to train the way they would normally train.
Well, I mean, and not only that, they're in the process of starting to create these teams that they're going to bring to the Olympics. Now is around the time where they start, naming names and putting, the head office together and the coaching staff together.
Yeah, because you said Sweeney got added to the US
Sweeney,
team.
Canada.
Oh,
Canada, he's assistant GM.
It would be weird if he was on the American team.
Yes,
I don't know what I'm talking about.
So maybe they just decided that now is our time, kind of bow out gracefully, therefore giving, a couple of younger women, the opportunity to show what they've got and make it to be on
I'm sure
Team USA.
they've got some NCAA players that they've kept their eyes on, like somebody from Maine or Minnesota that they're like, all right, let's bring her in. Julie the Cat Gaffney is our new goalie.
Wow.
Deep cut. Although I think she's probably too old. She's probably in her 40s at this point.
Yeah. Probably.
Well, because that movie came out, 92? And she had to be a teenager at that point, and that's 30 years ago. So it stands to reason she's in her mid-40s.
Yeah. Was she a hockey player to begin with?
Julie the Cat Gaffney? She's a fictional character from the Mighty Ducks.
No, I'm aware of that, but like, I thought you were talking about the actor who played Julie the Cat Gaffney. No.
no, Julie the Cat Gaffney. She took over for Goldberg that one time, and then she kneed 2 guys in the face.
Oh, it was 94.
94. So still, that's 27 years ago. So if she was 15, she'd be 42.
She's like, I was coached by the great Gordon Bombay.
They called him Gordy Bombs.
No, they didn't.
Julie the Cat Gaffney. Here she is right here. She was also in Men in Black.
Oh.
Oh.
Is she Will Smith?
Had 6 weeks of private skating tutorial by Chicago Blackhawks forward Grant Mulvey for her role as Julie the Cat Gaffney in the final 2 Mighty Ducks trilogy.
Oh, that's good.
Resides in New York, New York.
Oh, like right down the street from you.
100%. So 77. So she was born in 1977.
So she'll be 40. She'll be 44 at the end of this year. She just turned 43.
No, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think how old she was in the movies. Yeah.
Or 16.
16. Yeah, when she was shot. So she was.
Her birthday is December 21st, 1977, and the movie came out before then. So she was 16. So yeah, she's in her 40s.
There you go.
Yes, compelling. All right, let's.
You're the one who brought it up, not me.
I did bring it up.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
You sign up for the seat, but you only need the edge. Sunday.
Kids seats are still only $5 because everyone wants to see Gravedigger.
All your favorites: Gravedigger, Face Smash,
Gravedigger,
and
Gravedigger.
Watch him do a flip. He's gonna jump a school bus.
And another flip, and then him going in the circle.
All right, so let's move on to the baseballs. So before we get into the Red Sox news, there are 2 rules from last season that will be carried over and 2 rules that will not. Now, we already touched on this a couple of weeks ago. that expanded playoffs and the universal DH will not be carrying over this year. I think the universal DH would have been great, but the Players Association was like, no, we don't want any of our aging superstars to play in the National League and have a chance to extend their careers.
So, question.
Yes.
Because I never understood why one league has a DH and one doesn't.
Because that's, to make a change in baseball.
Personally, I think a DH is beneficial.
I love a DH. I would rather have a DH than a pitcher's coming up. Oh, look at him not swing. That's an out. He's just going to stand there and strike out. Ooh, exciting. I loved when Pedro Martinez would go up to bat and he would just stand there and not move and take 3 strikes right down the middle. And
the reason that is because for a while the National League and the American League were legitimately 2 separate entities.
Yeah,
and you had a commissioner of each, and the American League was like, "We're gonna have a designated hitter," and the National League's like, "Well, we're not." So, and then when the leagues kind of merged more to be more unified
under
the National League never really changed it. So.
And in order to make a change in baseball, you need a fucking act of God in order for any of these old-ass dinosaurs to do anything, which is why we got no inductees into the Hall of Fame. And even when Kurt Schilling was like, I want to be taken off consideration because you're never going to vote me in, so I don't want to be on the ballot anymore. You know what they said? No, you can't do that. You're still going to be on the ballot. We're just not going to vote you in. It's like, then what's the fucking point?
Wow.
Yeah, no. For me, after the debacle, which was last year's trying to get the return to play for baseball, which took way too long for them to get back to playing baseball. I honestly, between it boiled down to like the money and the profit sharing, and it kind of boiled down to that's what it was. I sat there being like, strike, do a fucking lockout, strike, the players strike. Because the sport is killing itself. They cannot get out of their own way because the players will not change, and the commissioners too chicken to implement like a fucking pitch clock. I'm sorry, a 4-hour game is not entertaining.
Ooh, a 4-hour game. It's 3-2. And just to throw this out there, rules that they are adding in: 7-inning doubleheaders. So if you're playing back-to-back, it's 7 innings apiece. And extra innings, you will start with a runner on second, which I thought that's a dumb fucking rule, but whatever. What they are doing, they're introducing new baseballs. And these new baseballs are said to reduce home runs by 5%.
And you know what the issue with that is, though, is because Major League Baseball owns the company that makes the baseballs.
Rawlings, yes.
Yep. They bought Rawlings.
And what sucks is, a lot of fans go to see these games specifically to see their guys hit home runs. And they've gotten so far up their own ass with analytics and WAR and VORP and all these other bullshit stats that don't mean anything, which is why the Rays lost the World Series. Because they're like, oh, well, they saw you pitch twice, so you can't pitch anymore, even though you're fucking cruising. You're having a great game. But the analytics, you know what it reminds me of? The Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns takes Darryl Strawberry out of the game and has Homer pinch hit for him. And Strawberry goes, but Skip, I got 9 home runs today. He goes, right. But, the pitcher is left-handed and the batter is right-handed. It's what smart managers do to win ball games. It's called playing the averages. So he took out fucking Darryl Strawberry and put in Homer Simpson. That's what these fucking analytics are. It's like,
well, and it's interesting. Well, and when you have Theo Epstein, who was one of the godfathers of analytics in the sport next to Billy Beane, come out and saying, we're killing the sport. You need to be like, yeah, stop listening. And this can go into
what do you know? JB World Series rings with the Red Sox and the Cubs and broke both of those long losing streaks. What do you know?
Well, and I'll bring up some interesting stuff about when we talk about some other stuff in Major League Baseball. But for them, I thought the expanded playoffs this past season was the best.
I love it.
Like, again, the players are going to make more money. Like, look, we're going to do something to make the game more appealing to people, make it more exciting, going to have some more eyes on the game. Do you want that? No, I don't. We just want to just take 42 seconds to throw a goddamn pitch.
Yeah, that's the worst. Like, and you have these guys like, well, I'm not going to abide by a pitch clock either way. So what are you going to do about it? Like, and these baseball players are so resistant to change. This isn't like, remember like 10, 12 years ago when the NBA decided they were going to change the basketball and it was the worst goddamn thing that you've ever seen. Like there were times, and I don't know if you remember this, but there were times like guys would shoot the ball and it would stick between the rim and the backboard and just stay there. Like that happened. Like I'd never seen that happen ever in my life. And it happened like 4 times in a week. It was the most, like the guy shot the ball and instead of bouncing off the backboard and going in, it got stuck between the backboard and the back of the rim and just stayed there. Like it didn't bounce right. Like everybody hated it. And
were they not like inflated properly?
No, they were. It was all the same inflation, but like the outer coating and like the inner core were different. Like it bounced different. Like
because that sounds like
I used
high school basketball, gym class where your balls aren't inflated properly, and like you go to shoot and they get stuck in the rafters.
Like I've done. I was working at the boarding school at that point. One of the students had gotten one of those, and so I used it and I shot it. Like it felt weird and like it didn't bounce right. Like it didn't come out of your hand right. Like everybody was complaining about it. And I think it lasted like 2 weeks and they were like, all right, this is no good. And they went right back to the old Wilson balls or Spalding. Went right back to the old Spalding balls and that was it. But with baseball, like it's so difficult to get anybody to change to do anything. Like, oh, you can't have 400 pitchers in a single inning. Like, you can't have a guy, you can't have the catcher come out and talk to your pitcher 22 times. Like, that's the shit that drives me nuts. And that's what drives fans away from the game.
I would say baseball is the least watched of all of the sports as far as cable TV goes.
It's watched more by, like, the older
Regionals.
folks. And
it's a regional sport.
Who are watching it generally aren't watching it. Like they'll turn, like my dad will turn the broadcast all the way down and turn the radio on and listen to the radio broadcast because you don't want to hear all like the stupid inane bullshit that's going on.
Well, and that's what I do. Like, and Jen always makes fun of me. She goes like, why do you prefer to listen to it like on the app or on like the radio or something? Like, I'm like, because it's a better fucking product. Like, I still believe baseball is either live in person or on the radio. Like, that's how I grew up watching the fucking sport. Like, yeah, I never watched Nesson. I never watched the regional stuff. It was in the car ride or at the beach. You'd hear someone put it on the radio, and like that's where you listen to the games in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I never had. I don't mind going to baseball games. Like, there's nothing like being in Fenway and like watching a game. Like, it's awesome. I'm not a huge watching baseball on TV fan because it takes like.
Well, I mean, if I'm watching baseball, I'm also watching something else.
You're flipping.
I'm flipping between the game and whatever else is on.
Because it's like, okay, they just got an out. Let me flip away, watch 5 minutes of the show because you have to have the batter walk up with his theme song. You have to have the catcher. Like he has to do his the batter has to go and do his like weird ass fucking batting routine. Like, the shit that Nomar used to do, the shit that
Nomar.
Even Pedroia used to do, like, oh, let me flip the bat, let me step out, let me go back in, let me dig in, let me stretch, let me twist, it's like, oh my fucking God. Like, it's 5 minutes for an at bat.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. And like you have the pitchers that are sitting there and like, oh, let me step off the mound. I don't like that sign. Oh, let me step back on the mound. Let me look. Let me throw over to first. And then he throws it back. And then you throw it back over to first. And it's like, oh. No wonder why you're on a pitch count, because you throw over to first to check the runner 22 times. Oh, it's terrible. Like, Don't get me wrong, I like watching playoff baseball.
Oh, there's nothing like it.
Just because the stakes are higher. Like, it's still the same boring ass game, but everything is kind of condensed. But I think having the Rays in the World Series and showing that we can use an opener. We have a guy come out for 1 inning. Whee! This is awesome. Like, that's ruining the game. Like, you'll never see somebody that's going to break Cy Young's record of like 400 wins, whatever the hell it is, like some ridiculous number.
I think it's 511.
Yeah, there it is. Like, no one's going to break that because guys today, like, you can't go past 5 innings. Ooh, something bad might happen. Oh, you went through the lineup twice? Well, suddenly you're a less effective pitcher. Like, I miss the days of watching Pedro Martinez come in Game 5 against the fucking Indians in 1999 in a relief effort and just go 6 innings pitching perfect baseball. Like, that's awesome. Or watching a guy, two absolute, badass starting pitchers just go back and forth, like Sale and Kershaw, battling into, or even the shit with that 18-inning game that they ended up losing, where Evaldi came out and pitched fucking 9 innings of relief.
Of like shut down baseball, basically.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was so good. In
Cy Young's career, he started 1890 to 1911. He had 22 years, 511 wins, 315 losses, 815 games started, and 749 of those were complete games.
Yeah, you nowadays guys get up to 300 wins and they're like, oh my God, that's so amazing. Oh man, 300 wins. Like, yeah, it is, because guys aren't gonna. It's like, well, oh, my fingernail kind of grew funny, and when I clipped it, I kind of clipped it a little too short, so I need to go on the DL for 60 days.
It's not the DL. Don't forget that. It's not
I'm sorry. Yeah, no longer the disabled list. It's injured reserve.
Yeah, it's the injured list or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever. It's fucking. Oh, I need to go on there for 60 days because I have an owie.
Are you talking to David Price a lot? Is that where you play?
David Price, Holtz, just these diva pitchers. Oh, I got a blister on my non-throwing hand and it hurts when I close my gloves. So
some guy couldn't feel his foot and won a World Series.
Yeah, I mean, as opposed to watching hockey, it's like, oh, this guy broke. Bergeron has a collapsed lung because his fucking rib crashed into it. Oh, Chara broke his jaw. It's all right. He'll just wear a mask. Like,
Greg Campbell will break his leg 10 seconds into a 2-minute power play
and block a shot, as opposed to just lay on the ice and do nothing.
Oh my God. Anywho,
so yeah, let's get to the news of the weekend with the 3-team swap between the Sox, Mets, and Royals. The Royals get Andrew Benintendi and cash from Boston. They're paying, I think, $6.6 million of his salary.
No, they're paying $2.4 million.
2.4 of the 6.6. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I read that one wrong. But the Red Sox get Franchi Cordero, who is been traded twice, and 2 players to be named from Kansas City. And I read Tony Maserati's column regarding this trade. Cordero is a guy, he compared him to Willie Mo Pena, a guy who's like, oh, he's got potential. It's like, yeah, potential means he's not going to do, like, the dude's been traded twice. Like, he's never made it.
I've got potential.
Yeah.
I can hit the ball sometimes.
This is like, and no joke, it's literally to the day of the Mookie Betts trade last year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Sox,
what the hell are they doing on Yawkey Way?
Well, he's a big, strong guy, and again, they likened him to
Willie Mo Pena, because that worked great out here when
he wasn't playing for the Red Sox. He was good. He's a guy who could hit for power, maybe. And then they got 2 players to be named, which is always sketchy.
Joe Schmo and John Smith.
The Sox also got Josh Winkowski and a player to be named from the Mets, And again, so they have 2 guys you've never heard of and 3 players that we don't know who they are. So right now, because Ash, as you pointed out, that on the Red Sox official website, someone else is already wearing Jackie Bradley's number 19, and he's not going to be back, which I'm fine with. He's great defensively, but he just streaks on offense.
I mean, this isn't official, but I was listening to 98.5 on my way home and listening to the Adam Jones show, and that's what they were talking about. So JBJ
culture.
Currently not on the listed roster on the Red Sox official website.
I mean, he's a free agent, and like they tried trading him and they couldn't, so they were just like, all right, whatever.
I believe it's Cordero is listed as number 19, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But
Franchi, the guy they just got. So right now,
French's Onion is number 19.
Right now, the Red Sox outfield depth chart, we have Cordero in left field, and they just got him. Verdugo in center. Verdugo is not a terrible player. And Hunter Renfroe, who, I get a lot of guys mixed up on this show, but I got Hunter Renfroe mixed up with Hunter Renfroe because there's Hunter Renfroe spelled Renfroe, who plays right field for the Red Sox, and there's Hunter Renfroe, who's spelled Renfrow, who's a wide receiver for the Raiders.
Oh.
So exact same name.
At least they don't play the same sport.
And then you have Michael Chavis and JD Martinez, even though Martinez is really a DH and he will rarely play in the field, especially now that he's older. And Chavis, I believe, is an infielder, like a first baseman, although I might be confusing him with somebody else. But James, we had a trade today, or a free agent signing, and you were so excited about it.
Because I have no idea what does John Henry care anymore? Like, do they just care? Because I hope everybody knows. Everybody who's listening
to see the team.
If you're a Red Sox fan, we're going back to the dark ages of the Red Sox.
Well, I think this is how they're looking at it. John Henry's probably sitting in his jacuzzi in JetBlue Park going, oh, no one's going to come see this team anyway, so there's no point in spending money on them.
John, you're yelling. Stop yelling, please.
Sorry, I go off the handle there.
Linda, do you want another fur coat?
Trade. 50 years younger than me.
Trade sale.
You shouldn't trust me to make decisions. I died 4 years ago.
Well, because like I said, and for me, it's like you're looking at, and I want to go back on the Benedetti trade for a second. You look at it, he's the 7th overall pick in 2015. 7th overall pick. And he has rookie year in 2017. 2018, he was
second. He finished second. He didn't get the rookie of the year.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying 2017 was his rookie year.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he was close. He finished in the he finished high up.
Yeah, but then 2018 he had his best performing year. He had 40 doubles, 20-ish home runs. He had an on base percentage of over 800. It helped you win a World Series, and then they started fucking with his swing and fucking with those analytics and totally broke him. And then last year was a pandemic season, so he only played like 16 games. So you're telling me after 4 seasons, in which 2 seasons he was very productive, and then when you started messing with him, he took a step back. You're like, we're done. Hands up. We're going to get rid of him. Like, come on.
I thought I liked the outfield that they had when they had Mookie in right, Benintendi in left, and JBJ in center, the Killer Bees outfield, because that was a fucking stellar defensive outfield. Like Mookie is awesome, and having Bradley Jr. patrol in center field was great. And even if you're a defensive liability, you can play left field at Fenway Park because it's like, oh, the ball's over my head. Well, let me just turn around and wait for the carom off the wall.
Yeah, it's why they always put their worst. You always put your worst in Fenway. That's why Manny was in left field, because he couldn't play defense to save his life.
Yeah, they didn't need him to. Well, although I'm looking at like this draft class from 2015. There was really nobody. Like Ian Happ was like the only other name that I recognize. Like just
Alex Bregman was number 2.
Yeah, but I'm talking about guys that the Sox could have gotten but
okay. I sat there. I was like,
no. I'm talking about guys that they drafted Benintendi, but they could have had Aaron Judge or something like that. It was one. That's what I was looking for, and I didn't go through the entire draft because there's 170 rounds in the friggin' baseball draft. But I don't know. So the other guy they signed another utility infielder, Marwin Gonzalez, who had his best season statistically in 2017 when he played for the Astros. Wow, isn't that a coincidence? So he's got a World Series. He hit 33 home runs that year.
I wonder why.
And he hit over 300. It's did you? The year that you were stealing signs and cheating your way to a World Series victory? That was your best year, huh? His numbers, I don't think his numbers have come close to that in any other season that he's played.
But hey, it's gonna be the Boston Devil Rays this year.
It seems like it. Well, he was a Twin last year, the last 2 years. Yeah, so let's see. He hit 303. The next closest he ever hit was 277 277, 279 in 2014 and 2015. Then he hit 254, 303, 247, 264, and 211. Gee, wonder what those numbers have in common. Oh, you weren't able to steal signs anymore after you went to Houston, after you left Houston and went to Minnesota?
So going back to the thing is that there was no other person the Red Sox could have drafted in that draft. They could have got Walker Buehler.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
They would have ruined that too. Yeah, he had 23 home runs in 2017. I'm sorry, not 33. Prior to that, his career high was 16 the year before. Then he since hit 13, 12, 6, and 4. No, I'm sorry, that was 16, 15, and 5. So yeah, he definitely took advantage of that 2017.
It's going to be between Baltimore and Red Sox for the AL East this year. Come on, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I love, as a Red Sox fan, watching the Yankees just keep fucking getting better, and the Red Sox we got Marwin Gonzalez. Doesn't that money? Hey, we traded Franchi Cordero. He's a reclamation project.
Oh, I know the Yankees you need some pitching. Take Adam. Take Adam out to it. Go.
Yeah, Ottavino. That was the crazy thing. It's the Yankees traded a guy to you? Shouldn't that set off a red flag right there?
Basically.
Oh, we have some trash. Would you like to take it out for us? Oh, would we? All right, so let's move on to the NBA. I don't have a whole ton about the NBA, but I find it odd, and this kind of ties into what I said last week because I was so fucking angry about this. I hate fan voting in any sport. I don't care what it is. Hate fan voting. I think it's the worst possible thing you could possibly do because all people do is vote for names that they are familiar with. So after the All-Star game, which we talked about last week, and I was saying it's just an opportunity for these guys to come out and build their brand more, they're going to totally screw it up because they're yeah, let's do the dunk contest at halftime. It's yeah, okay, that's just skip the fucking All-Star game altogether. LeBron came out and was oh, this is dumb. I don't want to play, but if they vote me in, I guess I'll play. It's you were going to go either way. You're just sitting there trying to make it seem like you're standing for something, but you love the fucking attention. So stop. But Giannis and Kawhi also came out and spoke out against the All-Star game as well. Kawhi, I actually believe, because that guy would rather not play if he doesn't have to, as we've seen the past few years. It's load management. But as of today, LeBron was the top vote getter for the entire NBA, passing Kevin Durant. Wow, what a shock. Oh, LeBron talked about the NBA All-Star game. He must need votes. That must be what it is. So people went out and voted for him. It's who fucking cares? Fan voting is the worst because they'll only vote for names that they know of, not voting for names that they are familiar with. I mean, that are deserving. It's oh, I've heard of Kevin Durant. He was out all last year. I'm sure they would have voted him to the All-Star. No, he was probably voted to the All-Star game last year because people. I mean, I might be wrong, but I've seen it happen dozens of times. Like the time that Alonzo Mourning missed an entire season due to a kidney issue, but was voted as a starter for the All-Star game. Makes sense. Guy hasn't played all year. Why not make him a starter? Yeah, he's put up great numbers. What's he done? Oh, nothing? Because he's had kidney issues that almost forced him to retire? Yeah, he deserves to start in the All-Star game. Makes sense to me. And every year there's something like that. I remember the year, the Lynn Sanity year, and everyone's like, oh, this guy had 4 good games. He should be an all-star. It's like, no. The big story, though, was Mark Cuban saying that he was not going to play the National Anthem, and they haven't been playing the National Anthem at their arena in Dallas for the Mavericks. James, what do you think about this?
Well, and I think and I'll preface this, I am a veteran. I served in the United States Navy, so I'm very proud of my anthem. I don't really care. It's a private entity, it's a private corporation, it's a private building. If they want to play the national anthem, it is their prerogative to do so. If I walked in there and they said play ball without doing the national anthem, I would not think twice about it. I would be like, what? I'd be like, I must have missed something. And then I'd be like, oh, look, a sport. Like, same thing with hockey. If they were just like, all right, here's the Bruins, and then they go and they drop the puck and they start playing, I'd be like, okay, like, I'm going to keep watching the game. I'm not going to be offended by it. And that's why I wanted to preface it as that I am a veteran. I served in the military. So everybody was like, well, what about the veterans? I am a veteran. I am proud of my country. I'm proud of my national anthem. I'm not going to spend $100 on a ticket to see the national anthem being played. I'm there to see a sport. So if that's his choice and that's what he wants to do and his players are okay with it and, they just want to play the game, great, awesome, cool. But what pissed me off more was then the NBA is like, no, you have to play it. He doesn't have to do anything. It's his building. He owns American Airlines Arena. If he doesn't want to play it, he doesn't have to play it. And if you have a problem with it, don't go to the games. Oh, wait, you can't go to the games anyway. Turn off the TV. I bet you, because it's all the people about the kneeling, people who were pissed about the players kneeling and stuff like that. Somehow they still made money on ratings because the ratings to watch those games. So try to turn off the television. Tell me you're not going to watch your team play the sport you'd love to follow because of this, because you're all fucking hypocrites. You all are. Like, I'm sorry, but that like pisses me off when they were like, oh, they're doing this and it's not in their no, they have a platform. They're going to do it. If you don't want them, don't support the team. Don't watch them. And I bet you can't last fucking 2 weeks without logging online on ESPN to see their standings or going on their Twitter account or Facebook account or NBA.com to see exactly what's going on because you follow that team because you love that team. So that's why I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I look at it as, these people that tend to complain about the national anthem. It's like, oh, well, you love the anthem so much. Do they play it before a movie? Do they play it before, every morning when you go to work? Do you do the Pledge of Allegiance at work? Do you do that? No? Oh, that's weird. Have you ever been to Walmart and they open up like, welcome Walmart shoppers, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, or please hold your hand over your head. And these same guys that are going to complain like, oh, so when they play it, you're at home, you stand up and put your hand over your heart, right? You take your hat off, you stand up, you put your hand over your heart, and you show the proper reverence that you insist that everyone else do. And even when these guys come out, like Colin Kaepernick comes out and says, I am kneeling because of these reasons, because of social injustice, and this is what it comes. And like, nope, he's kneeling because he hates America. Well, I literally just told you why I was doing it. Nope, you're wrong. This is why you're kneeling, because you're disrespecting. Well, I talked to a veteran, and I was going to sit, and he said it would be more respectful to kneel. So that's what I did. Wow, I can't believe he hates all our veterans and our troops. Now, Ashes, you are also from a military family.
Correct.
What are your thoughts?
I think that people who join the military fight for our freedoms as a country. And one of those freedoms should be, just like freedom of speech and certain rights and whatnot, should be the right to decide whether or not the national anthem is played in your arena. I don't think that sports needs to have, especially, hockey, for example. You have so many players from other countries. Yes, if they're playing a Canadian team, or if they're playing up in Canada, the Canadian national anthem is represented.
Mm-hmm.
But, it kind of gets to a point where I don't know, like I have opinions and sometimes I don't want to give my opinion because of controversy.
See, the NBA to me is, the NBA or the NHL. I like the fact that in the NHL, like you were just saying, they will do the Canadian anthem. But it's like, if you really want to be like inclusive, it's like, okay, so now we need to do the Czech national anthem. Like, I don't know the last time I heard, say the Cuban national anthem or the Japanese national anthem played in a Major League Baseball stadium. Have you ever heard the Korean national anthem? Have you ever heard the Canadian national anthem when the Blue Jays play the Red Sox?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they play it.
I haven't noticed that.
But I mean,
maybe because I don't
there
watch baseball
are,
that much.
And again, I'm going to kind of go back to hockey. The national anthem has been around for so long that you kind of get these staples of, the people who sing the national anthem. I'm looking at you, Renee Rancourt.
Todd
these
Angeli.
people who become so beloved. So it was like you look forward, like honestly, I looked forward to going to Bruins games, to obviously watch the Bruins, but to see Renee Rancourt. Yeah, I mean, he did it in such a way. It really got he
had a lot of flair.
He was very charismatic.
We have an autographed Renee Rancourt picture from right after the marathon bombing with the color guard.
Oh, nice. Yeah, my brother was at that game.
We the last game we went to, we actually went on her birthday. We met on the way out. I look over and I'm like, oh, that guy looks really familiar. It was Todd Angeli, who sings the anthem now. We ran into him. He took a couple of pictures with us. It was fucking awesome.
But I'm not for forced nationalism,
The
forced
pageantry, like in the NFL.
forced patriotism. I'm not on board with that. Let me just put it that way.
And
yeah,
somebody made a point today. I saw this on Twitter. It's almost like you're indoctrinated from the age of 5 to the age of 18 every single day, with liberty and justice for all.
And it's
then
funny
you
that
want
you
justice
say
for
that.
all. And
No, well, it's funny because, I grew up my dad was in the Air Force, so I grew up on military bases. And I thought it was just something that we did because we were on the military base. I didn't realize that it was done everywhere until my dad retired and I went to,
regular school.
Well, I mean, like it was still public school. It was still regular school. It just happened to be,
not on a military
a military base. So, I just assumed that was that. So I was kind of surprised because when I went to school in Guam, we not only sang the national anthem, but we sang, we did the Guamanian anthem too. So like I just thought it was something that they did in the military. I didn't realize it was something that translated, to
civilian
other
life.
Place exactly. So again, like if you're for it, be for it for the right reasons. Don't force people to do things.
Right. And that's why I wanted to get your guys' opinion because James, I knew you were in the Navy. And Ashes, you've been, your dad served in the Air Force.
Yes.
So, you guys have a different perspective than I do. I mean, I have family members who served, but not immediate family members.
I mean, it makes, obviously the Olympics play it, but like the Olympics is a completely different playing ground.
Right. And they only play it at the medal ceremonies.
Right.
You don't have all these teams marching in and they're playing every anthem at the same time.
But when the teams are marching in, during the the opening ceremonies and stuff, a lot of them are repping, the colors and the flags and stuff from the country that they're representing. So, right. Which makes sense, but to do it on such a smaller
to do it too much,
smaller ground,
it loses a lot of meaning to me. Like if you do it, if it's supposed to be so special, then save it for special occasions. The World Series, the Super Bowl, save it for those types of occasions.
It's like champagne. You don't want to drink champagne all the time because then, you just kind of lose your interest in champagne.
It's not special.
But if you only drink champagne on special occasions, it remains special.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, for with all this, and it kind of and it without being what it is, but it's one of those things in which I believe that, and with the symbolization of the national anthem, and I think some people forget the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, it has not been our national anthem for 100 years yet.
Right.
It was only agreed upon in 1931. So like, it's one of those things where, you're right. I think people get caught up in the pageantry of what it is and what it means and all that stuff, but at the same time forgets what it actually means and who it's for. So again, one of those things where it boils down to if you want to do the national anthem, do the national anthem. I'm not going to stop you. Great. Awesome. I'll respect it because I was trained to respect it, and I will always respect it moving forward. And I did before because my grandfather was a World War II veteran, and so wasn't my other grandfather. So it's like you grow up with that heritage, but forcing it onto people, probably, like I said, in this day and age too, where it means the national anthem could legitimately be a polarizing topic. And I think it's smart on Mark Cuban being like, you know what? I'm not even going to give the opportunity to be polarizing. I'm going to focus on basketball because inside these four walls, it's all that I care about. So,
yeah. And, I'm right with you. So let's move on, because that was like the big NBA topic that I wanted to talk about. Not much has changed in the standings. Celtics are still very up and down, and I think they need to make a move. And there's a rumor that they're going to be making a move. They have that big trade exception.
I can go about Danny Ainge and these big moves they've been talking about for 4 years and nothing happened. So,
yeah, I know. But I mean, they have this $28.5 million trade exception. And they have to do something with it. Somebody was like, "Ooh, they're going to get Bradley Beal." It's like, no, they're not, because he makes more than the $28.5 million. So they would have to send matching salaries. They would not able to use the trade exception unless it's someone who makes 28.5 or less, which is
JJ Redick's been talked about.
I wouldn't hate getting JJ Redick. This is a guy I've wanted on the team for years. Now he's 36, 37. I mean, whatever. But yeah, let's move on to the NFL. Obviously, we had the Super Bowl, but before I get to that, I want to talk a little bit about Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer passed away at 77 after a very long battle with Alzheimer's disease. He is one of only 8 coaches with 200 or more wins, or so at least 200 wins. He coached 4 different teams and did not have a losing record with any of them. So he was 44-27 with the Browns, a better record than Bill Belichick, by the way. He was 47-33 with the Chargers. He was 8-8 with Washington, so he only got 1 season in Washington. But he spent most of his time with Kansas City, 101-58-1. So he was very good as a coach. Not as stellar in the playoffs. Never won. But part of that is, he was with the Chargers when they had to go up against the Patriots, and with Kansas City going up against those really good Broncos teams.
And the Dolphins and the Bills.
He didn't coach the Dolphins or Bills.
No, I'm saying when he was in Kansas City, he went up against the Dolphins.
Yeah. All those, like he had Joe Montana, but like there was a lot of powerhouse teams in the AFC, like those Steelers teams. He actually played for Buffalo and the Boston Patriots. He won an AFL championship with Buffalo in 1965. So, he's definitely a Hall of Fame coach, and he does have ties to the local team here. But he played for the Boston Patriots, not the New England Patriots, because they weren't known as the Boston Patriots until the leagues merged, I think in 1966, 67.
61.
Okay.
No, 1960. That's when the Patriots were founded. It was 1960.
Right, but they were still the AFL at that point.
Correct. Yeah.
And when the leagues, because the first two Super Bowls that the Packers won were known as the AFL World Championship, and the leagues didn't merge until, because the AFL was always looked at as the inferior league. But when Joe Namath and the Jets beat Johnny Unitas and the Colts 16-7, that's when the leagues merged, and that was technically the first Super Bowl, and they just retroactively called the other two Super Bowls as well.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Super Bowl III was the first one to use the term Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl. We did it.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, this was the least watched Super Bowl since 2007. And the ratings were higher in New England than they were in Tampa. And the thing that I'm not understanding, and James, as a Patriots fan, you might be able to shed a little bit of light on this for me. Why are Patriots fans trying to claim this as a victory for them?
I don't think, as a Patriots fan, I am not saying that this is a win for the Patriots fans. I think it's because the whole season's been Brady v. Belichick. Mm-hmm. Who was the catalyst for winning those 6 championships in New England? Was it Brady? Was it Belichick? Was it a little bit of both? Was it the refs? Was it whatever? Was it the deflated balls? I don't know. We'll never know.
Brady.
But like, it was one of those things. So where, for me, I was rooting for Brady because I think the Patriots should have resigned him when he wanted the 5-year extension after Super Bowl 51 against the Falcons. You should have walked up to him and been like, whatever you want, Tom, will give it to you. Like, you literally just pulled a rabbit out of your ass.
Best Super Bowl I've ever seen.
So right then and there, it's one of those things where it's like, they botched it from the beginning. And then I think it was more of a spiteful being like, the Patriots royally fucked this up. That it doesn't help what the season they had with Cam Newton doesn't help their case. So I think more
passes in the regular season. Brady had 10 in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think more people watch it up here to be like, I can't believe Tom Brady's going to fucking win another Super Bowl ring. Like, I can't believe he's going to do that.
See, and the thing that bugs me is I keep seeing, and I'm sure you've seen it, the Patriots flying Elvis, but instead of the star, it's like the Bucks logo. It's like,
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that? Oh, well, I'll have to find it and send it to you, because I've seen that in quite a few places. And that's what led me to, why are Patriots fans trying to, like, what, because Brady and Gronk used to play for your team, and all of a sudden, like, yeah, this is a win for us. No, it's fucking not. It's a win for Tampa Bay. Like,
no, for me, I never in the scoreboard of Brady v. Belichick, it's a win for Brady. So if you're Team Brady or you're Team Belichick, if you're on Team Brady, you won. You won because, like I said, he won the first year out of New England in a pandemic season with no off season, no OTAs, no preseason. And he went to the Super Bowl and beat the defending champions on his home field. Sorry, Bill.
Referring to.
Oh yeah, that's the first time I've ever seen that.
Yeah,
I've seen more of the Tom Brady Tampa Bay logo face than I've seen anything.
Yeah, the old Buccaneers logo, but with Brady face.
I mean, I watched the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl, and football has me by the cojones. But for me, I didn't really care. Like, we had on the show, the preview show last week, and even we talked about this week, like, I picked Kansas City to win the Super Bowl before the season started. So if they won, great. I was right along with 98% of the country who picked Kansas City as well to win the Super Bowl this year. But if Tampa Bay won, great, awesome. Tom Brady won 7. It's a big middle finger to the Bill Belichick and the Patriots being like, ha 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 ha. Like, you bet on the wrong horse. You should have just given me what I asked for, which wasn't a lot. And, it was, I think I think that's why, like, they're trying to claim this victory because, he's still our quarterback. He had 1 year Tampa Bay, but he's still the New England. When you look back in history, it's him in New England as a New England Patriot.
Yeah. 6 Super Bowls. I mean, I get where it's hard to kind of, like, make that distinction, but See, here's the thing that people aren't looking at. Like, they essentially brought back the same team that they had last year. That team wasn't going to win a Super Bowl. Like, who's he going to throw to? Like, yeah, granted, like, he was able to assemble to his team of shitbags down in on that offense down in Tampa, because he was able to get Antonio Brown and Leonard Fournette, and he had Ndamukong Suh and Jason Pierre-Paul, who are all just fucking scumbags, some more than others. But he went to this team that has a great deep. Like, I mean, I didn't know how good Levante David and Shaq Barrett and Devin White were going to be together, but that defense ended up being pretty monstrous. But like, there were some times during that year that you looked at it, and I would listen to sports talk radio after every week, and it's like, oh, Brady looked terrible. Like that game against Chicago, like how the fuck do you lose that game to Chicago and you don't know how many downs there are, and like you don't know like what play it is, Brady? Like that was bad. And then they'd come back and blow out Green Bay, but then they'd come back and like they get smoked by Kansas City, and they can't stop Tyreek Hill. He has 200 yards receiving in the first quarter. Like, it's it was a very up and down year, but again, I can get it where it just proves to me how fair weather Patriots fans are, and I've known that for many, many years. I've always wondered what they were going to do once Brady left, like how they were going to react. And they just follow Brady. Like, they have no loyalty to the team. It's like, oh, Brady won. Hooray. This is great. It's like, well, I always think back to the Herb Brooks line. The name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the name on the back. But apparently, if you're a Patriots fan,
it's the cult of Brady.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, did you see how great Brady was? It's like,
So
when he left, like, you weren't saying shit about him. You were talking so much shit and saying how like he's such a scumbag, and now he won the Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, my boy Brady won the Super Bowl. Did you see that? I never lost faith. It's like, yeah, you did. Like,
so I was a Patriot, and like I said, and I always have this credit to me. I used to go to the old games at Schaefer Stadium growing up. So I used to go with Bledsoe back with the metal bleachers. And I used to go to the preseason game. It was against like the Vikings. That's what like my stepdad would always get tickets for. And like even this year when he got traded to the Brady, I made children. I said, wherever he goes, I'm still going to get a Brady jersey because he is my favorite player. Like I've in my lineage of me watching football, I've known two quarterbacks, Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady. And I have Bledsoe jerseys hanging up in my closet, and I have Brady's jersey hanging up in my closet.
And
I told,
and a Dalton Keene.
Yeah. I also have a Steve Grogan one too.
I met Grogan.
He's the nicest guy. So I told Jen, I was like, I'm going to buy a Brady jersey, because like I said, first of all, especially when like some of the new jerseys came out, I was like, ooh, if you go to the Chargers, I'm getting one of those fucking powder blue Brady jerseys. Like dark
blues.
And
gross.
And then when he went to the Bucks, I was like, even like him in that red Bucks jersey, I'm like,
creamsicle jersey, aren't you?
I was hoping they were going to do like the alternate creamsicle. I was like, dude, if there's a Brady creamsicle jersey, I'm going to buy it. Yes. Did I watch every Bucks game? No, I still watched every Patriots game I could get on TV because they're still my team. I still root for them. But yeah, I like Tom Brady. I'm going to see what he's doing. I like Zdeno Chara. Like, I'm not going to go buy a Capitals jersey because I hate the Capitals, like with an ungodly passion. But like, I'm happy for him. But like, if he went to like the Islanders or like to the Avalanche and like Zdeno Chara was like my favorite hockey player, I would probably buy a Chara Avs jersey or like wherever else he went because I hate the Capitals so much. I will not buy one.
See, I'm like that. Like, there were certain players that that I followed when I was young.
If they're in a team that has a dope ass jersey, again, the fucking powder blues, or like
Slashes don't like the powder blues,
or I even like the Avalanche uniforms with the Colorado C on it. They've been wearing a little bit more. I think that like if Bergeron, say for whatever reason, because if Zdeno Chara goes, who the hell knows nowadays?
No, Bergeron anywhere.
But whoever say like Bergeron or Marchand goes to another team that has a really good jersey, I would definitely buy their jersey because I'm a fan of them as well.
I would root for them if they're not playing my team. Like I would do that, I am a huge fan of both Rod and Charles Woodson, and I would root for the Raiders. Like I liked Rod Woodson when he played for the Steelers. Like, Rod Woodson and Darryl Green were like two of my favorite players. And when Rod Woodson came to the Raiders, I was fucking over the moon. When he won the ring with Baltimore, I was over the moon because like, all right, Rod finally got his ring. Like that's awesome. But, again, like you were saying, like, I have a Rod Woodson Steelers jersey. I have a Rod Woodson Raiders jersey. I have two different Charles Woodson jerseys. I don't have the Packers one. I do have a Charles Woodson Packers action figure. But I always rooted for my team. It's like, well, I love Charles Woodson, but he's playing against my team, so I can't root for him. Like if the Patriots had played Tampa Bay, like that
Which they are next season at Gillette.
That's amazing. That Brady's going to put up 6 touchdowns.
Well, you were saying to fair with the fans. I'm curious to see what that crowd is.
It's going to be Brady jerseys. Like, and that's the thing. Like some of these guys will be like, well, I'll just wear my Brady jersey so nobody calls me out for being a fair weather fan. And I can root for Brady, but I'm still wearing Patriots colors. I'm sure that's how, many of those folks think. I don't. If you root for a team, you root for a team. My brother denies this up and down, but he was like, I'm a Bills fan because the Bills were good. And then the Bills lost 2 Super Bowls to the Cowboys. And
I was going to say, when I met him, he was a Cowboys fan.
I'm a Cowboys fan. Then the Patriots started getting good. And, Brady showed up and everyone's like, ooh, well, now I'm a Patriots fan. It's like, well, and this year he was rooting for the Bucks. He picked the Bucks to win every fucking game this year. I mean, he picked the Bucks to win the Super Bowl. He was right in the end. I had the Saints, but he picked the Bucks to win the Super Bowl. It's like you're that fast. You're abandoning your team. I mean, I was realistic. I thought my team might get into as a wild card, because I'm realistic. But it's like he just completely abandoned his team. Somehow thought they were still going to win the division. I think he still picked them to win the division, but that was only because he was discounting every other team. It was like nobody else in that division is any good. I'm like, Buffalo's pretty damn good. And Dolphins are getting better. But, I like it to be realistic. Look at, like a lot of these folks are like, well, you can't possibly count Brady out. And, apparently you're right. He played pretty well. Like I listened to a couple of things on the radio. Folks were like, oh, I hope that like Bruce Arians, like Brady plays a great game, but Bruce Arians makes a dumb decision at the end that costs them the game. Like, missing a timeout or calling a timeout in the wrong time, like going for it instead of kicking a field goal or whatever. Like, so you can keep the Brady Belichick thing going. It's like, oh, you need the coach too. You can't just do it all by yourself. And, apparently that didn't work. So James, as a Patriots fan and a fan of Tom Brady, I need to get your thoughts on him getting absolutely hammered. I assume he was just pounding White Claws. Him getting absolutely hammered and
he was getting white girl wasted.
Yeah, heaving the Super Bowl trophy off a boat.
I thought I saw that, and I because I saw that come across my Twitter account. And I sat there being like, what happened? And I saw it. I watched it. I'm like, oh my God, that's fantastic. Like, I love everything about it because you know why. And this is like one of the things like, in one of the books I want to get is the Dynasty, the book about the Patriots the last 20 years. Yep. And you just he's having fun and he's enjoying himself. And I'm like, dude, go have fun. Like, if you didn't have fun in New England anymore, I'm glad you found somewhere to have fun and enjoy yourself. I would have died laughing if that sucker fell in the ocean. It fell into the friggin' canal, though. That would have been because I would have been like, only in Tampa Bay. That would only happen in Tampa Bay. But I love.
Go ahead.
love the drunk Brady. I was like, because I saw him walk around, I'm like, what is this? And then you hear him like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, he is fucking wasted again. And I'll put it this way: it was on Wednesday. It was 18 degrees in the city of Boston compared to the 78 degrees that was in Tampa Bay. Which one do you think you're going to be able to drink more, when it's 18 degrees for a Super Bowl parade, or 78 and you're in a boat parade in Tampa Bay?
Well, it all depends on. And the boat that he was on was the boat that he bought with his PPP loan, his $1 million PPP loan that he got. You know, small businesses are going under, but don't worry. Tom Brady, whose family is worth, close to $1 billion. Yeah, he needed that loan so he could buy another yacht.
So I shouldn't have bought that TB12 7 shirt for $35 last night.
Should have spent that money on local businesses. But no, I thought it was ridiculous. And now, like, word comes out like, oh, Brady needs minor knee surgery. Do you think he fucked himself up while stumbling around drunk?
Well, he made a joke on his own Twitter account being like, I shouldn't have had that avocado tequila.
Yeah, sure, it was avocado. He was pounding White Claws, and you know it. Oh, man, White Claws and Budweiser seltzer. Oh, man, I'm so wasted. It's like Flanders when he had the white wine spritzer and ended up marrying the cocktail waitress.
Or no, or was it like, and Flanders full of shit, or whatever he said.
And Landers is a boring old biddy. No, the one where they're in Vegas, and he's like, I'll have a virgin. Oh, give me a white wine spritzer.
Spritzer.
No, did you hear like how he talks to Gronk, which just further the stereotype that Gronk is a fucking 6-year-old trapped in a 35-year-old man's body.
Soy fiesta.
Huh?
You see him at Disney World? He went to Disney World after the Super Bowl.
No, I saw him. I heard about him fighting with lightsabers. I heard about that. No, I was talking about like on the field when he's like, "Oh, I got a couple of tutties." It's like touchdowns, like tutties. Are you fucking 4? Like
I remember watching that game. I looked at Jen because she was watching the couch. I was like, I wish New England had players like that.
You know what? You know who he is? He's Master Blaster from fucking Road Warrior.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. So, Ashes, I know you have something, and I posted this in the group earlier today because it's not getting much coverage anywhere on ESPN, but they did cover it on the Young Turks Sports. Rick Strom covered it today. And that is the case of Chad Wheeler. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on what a fucking hunk of shit he is?
Well, I feel like I should start off first of all, and I'm going to try to keep this brief. I'm going to try to keep my my feminist rant short. I am done with the NFL completely. Antonio Brown should not be celebrated and having a Super Bowl ring. Tom Brady is trash because he is the one who got Antonio Brown a job.
Twice.
Tyreek Hill should not have been in the Super Bowl because he is a garbage person. And I could go on. There are so many people, so many players, so many athletes who get a pass in the NFL because they make the NFL money and because they put butts in seats and because you fans out there still watch them. This is bullshit. It is garbage. The fact that the NFL turns a blind eye to domestic abuse and sexual assault and all of this other bullshit that happens that these players do.
But they'll fucking destroy you over weed.
I don't fucking care that they had the first female referee at the Super Bowl this past Sunday. That's fantastic, but that does not make up for all of these women whose lives have been ruined by these NFL players who were not held accountable for their actions. This is bullshit. Now, going to Chad Wheeler, who pretty much killed his girlfriend, thought he killed his girlfriend, and then just left her for dead. And when she awoke from the, coma that she had been in, state, and showed signs of life, he turned to her and said, "Oh, you're still alive?"
While sipping a smoothie.
no remorse, no nothing. And of course he's pulling the, well, oh, it was my mental state, I was manic, I was blah 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 blah. I don't fucking care. And what's worse is, he is a white man and she is a black woman, so obviously she is not going to get her justice that she deserves, because our society hates black people to begin with, especially black women. And so
I was going to say, to touch on what Rick Strom was saying, the situation that they found him in. Now, to give you an idea, Chad Wheeler is 6'7", 315 pounds. His girlfriend, whose name is totally escaping me right now, is 5'6".
I think she's like 5'5", 5'6", 140.
Yeah. So he's monstrously bigger than her.
But he's also a professional athlete.
When the police came, it took 3 of them trying to tackle him down, and he was still able to, and the cops said this in their report, we had about 700 pounds on top of him, and he was getting up like we weren't even there.
And the NFL has done nothing. What?
And they tried tasing him, and it didn't work. Now, what's odd to me, if this had been, say, I don't know, a black lineman, he'd probably be dead at this point, which is only further exacerbating the whole thing that Colin Kaepernick was kneeling to protest in the first place, the separate justice system for black and white people. Now, you're afraid for you fear for your life, and you have to fire random gunshots at people who are in their car or sleeping or just sold loose cigarettes or potentially used a counterfeit $20 bill, but not this 300-pound man who just nearly killed his girlfriend, destroyed her arm. Like, her left arm is full of pins and the other things.
And you want to know why? Because she wouldn't bow to him.
Yeah, he told her, bow to me. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he ordered her to bow to him, and she wouldn't do it. So he wrapped his hands around her throat, and the cops could see the finger marks on her throat and on her neck. But they didn't fear for their lives. That was okay. Like, they couldn't possibly use, excessive force against this guy, even though he was manhandling 3 of them, after being tased. That's not enough to use excessive force, but sitting in your car, sleeping in your own home, or eating ice cream in your own home, that's a call for excessive force.
But the NFL has done nothing. So he has been released by the Seahawks.
They said they were saddened.
Yes, yeah. They pretty much sent out a report saying, sorry about it, he's gone. And nothing. The NFL has done.
We hope that he gets the help he needs.
Right. Nothing for the victim. Just, we hope that he gets the help that he needs. And the NFL has done nothing. And the NFL continues to do nothing. And we keep seeing this over and over and over and over and over again. These players getting a pass because they make the NFL money. The only one who was really held accountable for his actions was Michael Vick. And that is because we hold animals in higher regard than we do women.
Yes.
And not only did he do his time, but he became an NFL. He went back to the NFL.
Yeah, he came back because he could still play. So he held a workout, and a bunch of teams showed up. And, I was proud because my Raiders were one of the first teams. Is like, yeah, we don't want him. He's not going to play for us. So I was like, okay, that's great. That's excellent. But even a guy, Adrian Peterson, beat the shit out of his 4-year-old with a switch. He's still playing. He bounced around a few times, and he's not the same player he used to be. Tyreek Hill, we've talked about him a bunch of times, punching his pregnant girlfriend in the stomach and saying, I learned I shouldn't punch my pregnant girlfriend in the stomach. That was his rookie year. Well, a few years ago, he starts punching the child who was then born, telling her that, there's nothing that she can do about it, and he'll kill her too. But he's still playing in the Super Bowl. Antonio Brown nearly killed a toddler, and we saw all the shit that he did over, a 6-month period. We saw everything that he did, and Tom Brady's like, yeah, that's the guy I want to live in my house with my kids and my wife. He's got allegations of sexual assault. Ben Roethlisberger was accused of rape, and he got a 6-game suspension, which is then brought down to a 4-game suspension or 2 games, whatever it was.
And let's not even go into Ray Rice.
Yeah, Ray Rice is the only one who was actually kicked out of the league after what he did. And that's because he wasn't that good anymore. Now, what's crazy is Ray Rice has been kicked out of the league because what happened was on video. And then, but don't worry, his girlfriend that he beat unconscious and dragged down the hallway by her hair, she apologized at the press conference. She apologized. Not him, she did. So Ray Rice is out of the league. Colin Kaepernick knelt at the anthem. That's unforgivable. He's out of the league. Josh Gordon, he smoked pot a few times. That's unforgivable. He's out of the league.
Like, the NFL really needs to revamp its policies towards certain things. And this is a great way to begin. Do what you need to do, get the garbage out of the NFL, and maybe, just maybe, I'll start watching again. But I can't do it. I cannot do it. This whole Chad Wheeler thing has just put me over the fucking edge. I cannot do it. This is absolutely disgusting. Do better. Do better.
Yeah, and I'm 100% on board with you with that. James, what are your thoughts?
It really boils down to the NFL, and the NFL won't do anything until it gets hurt where it gets hurt the most is the pocketbook. And they keep saying they're going to look into this stuff, and it's false words. They're not going to do anything because they're still making money hand over fist. It goes back to what I said earlier. If this enrages you like it does, and then don't watch, don't support their sponsors, don't do that stuff, because the only way you're going to get change is, especially with the NFL, it's such a monster, is you have to get it where it hurts the most, is its pocketbook. But the problem is it's such a big monster. It's one of those things where you have to have sponsors to speak up, and sponsors aren't even doing that. They're all turning a blind eye to this stuff, and it's getting worse and worse with the advent of social media, because there is nowhere for the player to hide. We have evidence. We can get police reports. We can do this stuff, and the NFL still turns a blind eye to it because you know why? Because it's not affecting their bottom line, and that's what needs to happen to institute more of these changes. Is for fans? Yeah, don't watch, don't buy their memorabilia, don't support their teams. If a large amount of people, enough people do that, things will change. The policies will change. And that's what sucks, is not a lot of people care. And you're seeing that because, and it goes back to the anthem protests. When all those players were like, we're going to kneel to the anthem as a sign of unity, and this is our platform to do it. Remember all the people like, I'm never going to watch the game again, blah, 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 all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. They still made money. They still had record sales. They still people still bought jerseys.
Nobody stopped watching.
Exactly. And it's so for their point is, Chad Wheeler is a piece of garbage, and he should be punished and fucking castrated and put in the county stocks and beaten every day for what he did. And for the NFL, the Seahawks released him. Hey, he's no longer a member of the NFL. He's no longer our employee. We have no control over him. He's now a private citizen. Like, we have no responsibilities. And that's what they do now. That's what the NFL does. If you fuck up, just release him, and then he's out of our hand. That means the NFL doesn't need to do anything. But if he's still a player,
he's still able to be picked up by some other team.
Right, and that's what they did with Antonio Brown. They're like, all right, if you sign him, he can only play half a season for you. That's the best we can do. Sorry.
But again, but still, the NFL is not
in that fucking league, and they'll suspend him for years at a time for smoking weed and drinking.
100%, and I agree that the NFL's priorities are way out of whack, and they need a dose of reality. But the NFL is on planet NFL. Like, Roger Goodell is a useless commissioner because he is controlled by the powerful owners, and the owners don't want to see any of this. So they just sweep it under the rug because they don't want to hurt the ratings at the end of the day.
Yeah, because most of the owners are old white men who have had the team for decades or inherited the team from their dads.
And have really bad haircuts.
Well, I'm just in general. Felger calls it a lucky sperm club.
Sorry.
But yeah, they they've been raised in this culture. Who was it? McNair from the Titans that was like, calling it.
McNair is Houston.
Okay, I knew it was they
were for the Titans.
Yes, Steve McNair of Alcorn State. Talking about like the way they viewed their teams. And like certain players are like, well, we don't want them to be called the team owners anymore. We had a whole discussion about that. It's like, well, they own the team, they don't own the players. Like, the players are employees. So like, I get where you're saying, especially as a black player, like I don't want to be like, oh, that's your owner. Like that I totally get. But the affiliation that some of these guys have and like the deep seated, like, very conservative views, a guy like Jerry Jones, McNair again, Bob McNair, who I think has passed on since then. Robert Kraft, who may not be as overt about it, but like he gave Trump a Super Bowl ring. Like, like this is where their loyalties lie because they're billionaires and they love the tax cuts. And, Robert Kraft, like, Kraft food, Kraft mac and cheese, like that's him.
No, that's a different Kraft.
Are you sure?
Positive.
No.
He owned Kraft. His company was like paper or management. It wasn't food.
Because I do know that somebody.
And also that Super Bowl ring was Super Bowl, I think it was like 39.
I don't care.
You were saying like, you got to put it in context.
You still gave him one.
It wasn't president then.
Yeah, it's still gross. He was still gross then.
I'm not saying he's not gross, but it's the way you implied it was he gave it like when they won and beat the Seahawks and they were the only team to go to the White House in his presidency.
No, it's just, it's slimy. It's slimy. Ugh.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just stating
that's fair. We want to be fair. He gave it to him before then, but
and then he gave to Putin.
Well, Putin took one. He's like, hey, let me see that. Hey, thanks. Oh, can I have it back? Have what back?
Who are you? Goodbye. Here, drink this.
Yeah. But yeah, like the NFL needs to change the way they handle things.
And here's the thing too. Do you know another way to do it? Hey, you're great at and this is why I wish, and this is why I hope like the XFL or another league will join up and compete against it, because you have star players going to this other league. They're going to be desperate for talent. And if the reason why they're not going to the league is because of how they handle domestic violence, how they handle, incidents of, race relations, drug policies and stuff like that are major issues where players are not being held accountable and owners aren't being held accountable, they'll go through another league and play there and make money. And then what's the NFL going to do?
Well, you have to get a league that is built up like a lot of people have tried. The USFL tried, and that didn't work because they just couldn't compete with the juggernaut that's the NFL. A lot of leagues have tried. Like, how many times have we seen the XFL or the AAFL and like all these other leagues have tried to compete, and it's.
Oh, I'm with you. Like I said, but again, it goes back to how do you hurt these people the most?
Yeah,
because they own all the radio stations, they own all the newspapers, they own all the TV stations.
Mm-hmm.
So the message is going to get manipulated to a point in which it's going to make them look like the good guys. And it's the like you said before, they're not talking about this anywhere else.
Yeah,
it should be
ESPN, but not on ESPN. And the only reason it was on, some of the Ray Rice stuff showed up on ESPN was because there was video, and it was being covered even on like CNN and other stations like this. So it was a national story, so they had to like devote some time to it.
But again, and this is where we talk about the the drug and stuff like this. And again, this is my mountain. You can see where I'm going with this. But hey, deflated footballs are worse than what that guy did. Just think about that.
Yeah, they did. They gave Brady 4 games, and Roethlisberger got 2.
And he got sick down the 4 games, but he also was accused of rape twice.
Yeah, and he's still in the league. That was like 12 years ago.
Yep, he cornered one woman in a bar, and then like a year later or a year and a half later, he did the same thing somewhere else.
Yeah, and again, he's 6'5", 270 pounds. He's not a small guy.
So, yeah, the NFL is a unbelievably terrible company. But again, it's one of those
anywhere, and it's very difficult to make an impact.
But enough people do it, they'll things will change. But
GameStop.
Yeah, for like Ash, it's if a million people with Ash's anger and hate that I heard from her when she was talking about this stood up and yelled at the NFL, shit would change. But there's not that many people realistically who are NFL fans really care, and that's sad.
Yeah, and it's they care again. It's a reflection.
People kneeling for the national anthem.
Yeah, that's what they focus on, and they make it seem like those are equitable things, and that's what they focus on. Like, oh, this guy knelt on during the national anthem. He took a knee during that song I like. It's like, yeah, but the guy across the field like beat the shit out of his girlfriend. Yeah, but that happens all the time. Like, that's just the way things are. But this guy knelt during the national anthem. Like, he shouldn't be doing that. Like, and that's what they push. And like you were saying, like, they control all the media outlets because a lot of these guys, like Werner owns the Boston Globe. So the Globe's not going to say anything bad about the Red Sox because they own the team. Like, there's so many of these guys that they have these multiple outlets, and like, that's how they made their money. And then they get into sports and they're able to kind of control the narrative, because they have this influence. Whether they own it or not, they have the influence because they're billionaires and they give money to senators and they give money to, these different organizations, But yeah, so I think this is a pretty good time to wrap things up. James, tell people where they can follow you and where they can interact with your show.
So you can follow me personally at Longtime Storm for the tweets and the Instagrams. Nothing exciting goes on there. A lot of times I just retweet Funko Pop things to win free Funko Pops from Funko.
That's fair.
Or I get fantasy news that breaks before games. That's where I get my news. I don't really do much other than that. But if you want to follow my show, it's Go Time with Jay and James. Just put that in your little search bar. In Facebook, it's up there, as well as we are on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all those places. You can we're on Instagram at It's Go Time Pod. But hopefully Patsy will share our show he was on this past week, as well as all my links hopefully will be somewhere in the chats, up or down, left, right, up and down below.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes. And
then I'm on every Wednesday with the normal Dorkening show whenever I yell at Leo for spoiling crap. So
yeah, and we just interviewed Larry Kenny this week, the voice of Lion-O and the Skittles guy.
As he kept calling us all by different names.
Yes. Super Retro was Soup. James was and I were Patsy.
And then he called me Soups, and then he called you. I think it was like, what was your name again?
Yeah, he called you Soup because he thought Steven had said something. But so yeah, do you have a hot take, a prediction, or disagree with something we said? Well, then let us know. Email us at theloudestsportsshow@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media, Twitter at loudest_show, Instagram at the loudest sports show. This has been episode 24. Slash, you got anything else you want to close off with before we head out?
Do better.
Yep, that's a good idea. So we will wrap this up and peace out. We're out of here.